Thanks for joining us as we start a new week of all things people, power, and politics. This is The Pulse. I'm Taryn Asher. Well, roughly half of U.S. states have legalized recreational cannabis, but it's still illegal federally. Now, the Supreme Court is taking on a high-profile case that could affect users nationwide. Can people who regularly smoke marijuana legally own guns? Now, this is the latest firearms case to hit the court since their big 2022 ruling expanding gun rights across the country. We're diving into the issue with Action Impact Firearms owner Bill Cusick and Frank Mara from the Greenhouse of Walled Lake. And we're also going to be talking tariffs tonight with former auto supply chain executive Jan Griffiths. Some relief for U.S. automakers, but will it make a difference for buyers? And the president threatens to skyrocket tariffs on China. But first, tensions are rising between President Trump and Colombia's Gustavo Petro. Now, Petro is accusing the U.S. of murder after strikes on boats in the Caribbean, while the U.S. says the vessels were being used by narco-terrorists to smuggle drugs. Over 30 alleged traffickers have been killed, but Petro insists one of them was an innocent fisherman. Trump is firing back, threatening to cut all aid to Colombia and raise tariffs.
They don't have a fight against drugs. They make drugs. They refine drugs. They make cocaine. They have cocaine factories. Now they have the worst president they've ever had. He's a lunatic who's got a lot of problems, mental problems.
And today, Colombia announced it's recalling its ambassador to the U.S. The move comes amid tensions with neighboring Venezuela, where some say the strike could be aimed at regime change. Right now, about 10,000 U.S. troops are in the Caribbean, along with ships and warplanes. And on Capitol Hill, still no deal as the partial government shutdown stretches nearly 3 weeks. Republicans have offered a vote on Affordable Care Act subsidies if Democrats agree to reopen the government. But Democrats say that's not enough. Neither side is backing down.
Offering a vote in the Senate without a commitment that it would pass, without a commitment that the House would even take it up is an empty offer.
The Senate Democrats have zero shame about this. They don't have any shame at all about the pain that they're inflicting upon hardworking families, upon soldiers and law enforcement officers and veterans and the elderly and the disabled and women, infants, and children. Services to all those categories and paychecks to those folks are being stalled because Democrats are playing games.
While there's no end in sight, missed paychecks and more air travel disruptions are putting pressure on both sides to get a deal done. So make sure you stay tuned. And that's just scratching the surface. So let's pick up the pace and run through some other big stories we're working on at the top of this hour. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials say they need more money to expand use of body cams in their Chicago crackdown. And it comes after a judge ordered uniformed agents to wear them if available and turn them on when arresting, frisking, searching buildings, or while deployed to protests. And that ruling came amid complaints that they're using combative tactics more and more. Now, more than 1,000 people have already been arrested in the crackdown. And speaking of ICE, the Trump administration is hiring more healthcare workers to work immigration detention centers around the country. That's according to a report from Politico. They say it's because of a growing number of deaths in custody and federal oversight being weakened by layoffs. The department hopes to hire more than 40 healthcare providers. And ICE reports 20 detainees have died in custody since President Trump took office. But compare that to the 24 who died during the entire Biden administration. According to Politico, public health officials say detention centers they're overcrowded, and they're using facilities like tent cities to make it easier for diseases to spread and tougher to manage chronic illnesses. All right, also tonight, millions across the country took to the streets over the weekend for the No Kings protests, speaking out against what they see as government overreach under President Trump. Many also voiced concerns about the administration's policies on immigration, education, health care. Rallies were held across all 50 states, including right here in Metro Detroit.
It's good to see so many people out peacefully protesting, letting the government and the rest of the country know what's going on, and we don't like it.
I think we need to keep showing up and keep standing our ground and speaking up for what's right and what we believe is our constitutional rights.
The No Kings demonstrations were largely peaceful, you heard it, but there were still plenty of arrests in Portland after hundreds of protesters moved to rally outside the city's ICE facility. The rallies come as the government shutdown continues. And President Trump made an appearance on the Fox show Sunday Morning Futures, where he spoke about the situation before those weekend protests took place.
Mr. President, do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for the king. This is
more
not a
than
king. You know, they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right.
And in case you missed it, we spoke to Oakland University history professor James Nouse on The Pulse last Friday, talking about these rallies and compared to historic protests. We also spoke with an organizer of the Metro Detroit rallies, Katrina Mineta. And you can watch that full episode by scanning the QR code right there at the bottom of your screen. Well, cannabis and guns, two things that you probably don't think go together, but are right now taking center stage at the Supreme Court. It's a case that could decide if people who use the drug regularly can legally own a firearm. We're breaking it down, what this means when you join us next on The Pulse. Well, back now on The Pulse and looking at all things people, power, and politics. The Supreme Court is taking up a high-profile question. Can people who regularly smoke marijuana legally own guns? It's the latest firearms case to land before the justices since their big 2022 ruling that expanded gun rights nationwide. Now, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to reinstate a case against a Texas man accused of having a gun while regularly using marijuana. A lower court had struck down the federal law that bans illegal drug users from owning firearms, and now the Justice Department wants that decision overturned. And to break this down, what it means and what it will mean in the future, Frank Mara from the Greenhouse, or with the Greenhouse of Walled Lake, and Bill Cusick with Action Impact Firearms. And we're happy to see you both here because this is, it sounds like a simple question. Sure. But it has far-reaching implications, really. It does. Yeah. So when you heard this coming back, did that surprise you, though, as where you are facing already a 24% tax on your industry?
I mean, I was completely shocked. I mean, everything that we're hearing out of the federal government. Recently, the Department of Health and Human Services recommended that cannabis be moved from a Schedule I narcotic to a Schedule III narcotic.
That was supposed to happen.
That was supposed to happen. Everyone in the industry, you know, thinks it's going to happen relatively soon. But on one hand, you have the government saying cannabis is not as dangerous as we have always treated it. And on the other hand, they're saying, well, we need to strip somebody's Second Amendment right from them because they use cannabis, which is a legal drug here in Michigan, you know?
Well, Bill, for you, though, as a former police officer and somebody who sells guns or owns a gun shop, how much of this comes into the day-to-day sale of guns? I mean, do you have to deal with this?
It truly doesn't. The only time we deal with it is when there's obvious marijuana use. I mean, it's pretty pungent. It's easy to tell if somebody's been recently smoking marijuana. So if that's the case,
so you smell it, then you do something with it?
Then they're done in our store. They can't shoot guns. Okay. They can't handle a gun, and they're requested to leave, and they always do.
So do you think that something like this, if it was enforced, would that impact your sales? No,
because it's always going to be illegal to be in possession of a firearm while you're under the influence of any controlled substance, and that includes legal and illegal controlled substances. So if you're under the influence, meaning your decision-making ability is affected, it's always going to be illegal for you to be in possession of a firearm. You even
if you legally obtained the firearm and legally got your license at the state level for, or your card, your marijuana card, because it's legal in the states, but not federally at this point.
Right, but remember, when we sell a gun, I'm a federal firearms licensed gun dealer. So federal law dictates everything we do.
So do you see this, though, as impacting your industry? Because it seems like one more nail in the coffin, if you will.
No, I mean, I don't think it's going to impact it. You know, I mean, what we see, you know, we've been in business 6 years. We opened in 2019. We're the Oakland County's first state licensed dispensary, right? I have met hundreds of thousands of people over the years. And the people who shop, you know, in our store, they're normal people, man. They are veterans, they're grandmothers, they're teachers. And all of these people have that Second Amendment right to own a firearm.
So you think, though, that that does not influence their ability to use that gun?
No, well,
being under the smoking
they have
marijuana,
questions.
eating it, whatever?
They have questions. And, that's a question that we have gotten, I don't want to say regularly, but we get it, a few times a year, from customers saying, look, I have a CPL. Am I allowed to buy here at your store? And we have to tell them, well, we always err on the side of caution. You can't have your cannabis and your firearm together, right?
Yeah.
If you have it on you, put your cannabis in a stapled bag in your trunk, right? Keep it separated from the firearm, right? But there's so much ambiguity in this law, and what they're talking about with this case is just adding more muddy to the water.
What about your Second Amendment rights, though? Do you feel like that's taking away a little bit, I guess, more freedom with that in order, or do you think that this is just common sense?
You know what I got to say, Taryn, that this has been the law for a long time. So.
Well, they're looking to overturn it and bring it back. I mean, this is something that's taking center stage.
It existed for most of our lives, so here we are, and I don't think it's going to impact anybody at any time. I think this is a situation that I don't see the federal government going out and trying to enforce this in mass against the citizens of this country or this state. I don't see that happening.
Well, they're trying to lessen the degree, right? Take it down what marijuana could be, not as dangerous as other, scheduled,
They're trying to make it Schedule 3, right?
Schedule 3,
right now
Schedule
it's
1.
lumped in with fentanyl and heroin, which is ridiculous.
So do you think, Bill, as though in your experience as a police officer, that they should be put in the same category?
No, I mean, so I kind of look at it as we look at alcohol, right? The only difference is in the federal government, marijuana is illegal. Alcohol is legal. So if you drank 5 days this week and quit drinking and carried your gun, 2 days later, you're okay. What they're saying with this one, if you smoked marijuana for 3 straight days and you were a regular user, even if you stopped for 4 or 5 days, it's still illegal for you to possess a firearm.
But is that fair, though? Do you think that people should be able to not smoke marijuana but still be able to drink? It seems like that there's a, depending.
There's a double standard, isn't
Yeah,
there?
a little bit.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I never have a problem. I even said it as when I was a police officer. I didn't have any problem with anybody on marijuana. Now, drunks, we fought a lot of drunks, so that I can tell you. Seriously.
And it seem to lead to things.
Right.
And there's a lot of people locked up right now because of marijuana. I think that has something to do with taking it down so you can empty out some of these jails. But is this, if this does continue, there's a lot of people that worry that it could make firearms unsafe, though, if you're able to legally use marijuana and be able to buy a gun.
Yeah, but that's not really what this is about. This is, my understanding, it was a guy in Texas who admitted he had used marijuana previously. But, the Second Amendment is pretty clear. It says, shall not be infringed. There's no footnote that says, if I'm going to take a gummy while I rake leaves this weekend, that you're going to, take my guns away, take my CPL away.
Yeah, are you a gun owner?
Of course.
So, so there, I believe that probably there's some consistencies in both for you.
Of course, yeah, right.
And so you feel that one is not being impacted by the other, but technically you're doing something illegal.
Well,
Sorry,
it's crazy, because I have a medical card. I've had a medical card here in Michigan for a decade, and that means the government has my name and they know that I am a cannabis user. So just the fact that they are entertaining this case, I hope it gets shot down.
Well, why do you think it is coming back into light, though? What is it? Are they just trying to come down on the cannabis industry?
I'm hoping because, like I said, all the rumors in the industry are it's going to be rescheduled. I'm hoping they're doing it for clarity so that they can strike it down and say, But it doesn't make sense to me to have, one hand of the DOJ saying, we want to take away somebody's Second Amendment right because they're a cannabis user, and on the other hand, they're talking about rescheduling, and they shouldn't be treating cannabis users like criminals.
Bill, though, as a former cop, when you see this, how can you even enforce it?
Well, so that's the issue. I wish I could solve this problem for everybody because I'd be somewhere else, right?
Yes.
So it's easy to test for alcohol. We have breathalyzers, we have preliminary breath tests. Not so easy to test for marijuana use. That requires a blood draw and a blood test. So now if you can invent something really nice to test for marijuana, you're going to make a nice living as well.
Because it looks good maybe on paper, but it's going to be very tough for our officers to enforce.
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, I don't know how in the world.
So what would you do? Try to detect if they had marijuana and then ask if they had a gun, or ask if they had a gun and then see if they're a regular pot user?
I don't know of any law enforcement agency that's going to be looking to enforce this. I look at it as an add-on charge to something else.
Okay.
Whether you're looking at you for terrorist activity or some other serious crime. This guy was looked at for funneling money to Iran. That's how this popped up.
Okay, and now it is back in the spotlight. They said they're going to argue early 2026 and possibly come up with a ruling in the summer, but it could be rescheduled as well with that scheduling change possibility. But we appreciate both of you. It's very important to hear all these different sides, so thank you both.
Thank you.
Well, some relief for automakers, but new tariffs on imported trucks are about to kick in. We're talking about how it all impacts your pocketbook, and with former auto supply chain executive Jan Griffiths. She has all the details. The Pulse is back in 3 minutes. Is people, power, and politics? Welcome back to Detroit's only nightly political talk show, The Pulse. Well, U.S.-China relations are on edge like never before. The trade fight flared up again after China took stronger control over rare earth minerals. President Trump responded with new tariff threats, but seemed to pull back over the weekend. He is set to meet with President Xi Jinping over the weekend, or this weekend, and says if they can't strike a deal, tariffs could jump as high as 155%. Meanwhile, automakers are getting some relief with a new rebate or credit on auto parts. The rebate is just under 4% for domestically made cars and will also apply to truck and engine makers. We're told this comes as new tariffs on imported trucks and buses kick in, though they don't affect imports covered by the USMCA trade deal. At the same time, car buyers are spending more than ever. Kelley Blue Book says that the average price last month hit more than $50,000, a new record. So what will this mean for consumers? Former auto supply chain executive and host of the Automotive Leaders podcast, Jan Griffiths, is here. And payment, we heard what average car it was $750 a month. I mean, it's outrageous.
It's insane.
So when you look at all these numbers, let's start here with this credit. Let's say if you get a vehicle made here or put together here, assembled here, is that a good thing? Is that really going to make much of a difference?
It's going to help the automakers somewhat. It's extending a little bit of the tariff relief that President Trump had put in place a while ago. But the big question is, how will this impact consumers? And right now, the automakers are feeling an incredible amount of pain because of the tariffs. They have been taking actions like removing incentives, doing everything they can to avoid increasing the price to the consumer. But they cannot hold off much longer. Right. It's coming. It's coming in slowly, but it's coming.
Yeah, because this has been going on for so many months. So a lot of people bought the inventory up and made as much as they could with the parts they had. But now it's in new territory, and it's going to have to be passed down to the consumers sooner or later.
It is, and then complicating things even more is the EV credit, the tax credit. That has now gone away. We know that tax credit, the $7,500 tax credit, that will boost sales in September. Because anybody who wanted to buy an EV, if you were on the fence, you knew that tax credit was going away. So you
I know people who did it. Right? Yeah, definitely.
So the numbers are going to be inflated for September, but now, the EV sales are going to drop. Jim Farley has commented that he sees a significant drop in EV sales he's projecting for the rest of the year.
Well, what about these rare earth minerals, though? We see that going on with the Chinese president. And I mean, do we have time to build alternative supply sources to make this happen, or are we going to have to come up with a deal?
That is an excellent question. So today was a significant moment in terms of the trade talks. We saw President Trump making an agreement with the Australian Prime Minister. Again, this agreement is a framework agreement, but it is significant investment by both countries to increase rare mineral production. But there's two parts to this. There's mining the rare earth mineral, and then there's processing it. Now, Australia is the second largest producer in terms of mining, but most of the processing they have done in China.
Okay.
The China processes over 97% of global supply.
But this, looking at the big picture, though, it just shows that Australia is our ally. And we were looking for allies in this. And that's going to create some leverage when it comes to this deal with China.
You are absolutely right. And what I love about this deal is it's two countries, two parties sitting down together to come up with something that truly is a win-win for both sides. It's a positive for both sides. And yes, it does improve our leverage with China. But this kind of production is going to take at least 3 years.
Oh, and that's a lot. I mean,
yes.
In the meantime, though, what are we going to see in terms of putting these products together using these rare earth minerals? I mean, for people that don't know, we're talking about like the chip, the things that go into a lot of the electronics, the EVs, that could force the price to go up. So are we going to, where do we see this deal going eventually? And do you believe President Trump when he said this is going to be fantastic with the president of China?
It depends how you interpret the word fantastic. Look, we all want certainty. The business community, consumers, all of us. We want this to be done. We want the deal to be done. So let's get it done. Let's put everything on the table. Fentanyl, rare earth minerals, technology, semiconductors, soybeans. Let's put it all on the table and get the deal done and move forward. We cannot go into another extension of 90 days.
No, and it feels like for the average person, though, that, you know, they can't afford all of this. The business owners, the dealerships, the automakers, the car buyers. I mean, yes, everybody wants things made here. You can't argue that, but it takes time. Is it too much too fast?
Is it too much too fast? Possibly. I love the effort and the commitment to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Right.
But when you're talking about global trading partners, these are deals and relationships that you have to be very careful with. They have to be very well thought out and executed. And that's why I love this Australia deal today, because it's two parties coming together, win-win deal, getting the deal done. It's still a framework.
Simply put, though, Jan, what will that do for us here?
It will help us, it will help give us leverage against China. And it will help give us an ally in the West.
Somewhere else to get it.
To get it, yeah.
Okay. So where do you see this going? Could we see, though, potentially 155% tax on our products here?
It's possible. It is possible.
It's scary.
Even President Trump has said that it's unrealistic. But it's possible. We need people who can really make a deal and not play this tit-for-tat power game style of negotiation. This isn't a one-time thing where you're negotiating for a building or a product. These are long-term relationships. It requires a different type of negotiation approach. The meeting is set for October 31st and November 1st. That's the next step in the process. Okay. November 3rd, the Supreme Court hears arguments about whether or not, November 5th, Supreme Court hears arguments about whether or not President Trump's tariffs are legal. And then November 10th is when the actual 90 days runs out with the second-day pause with China.
So all of this is going to come to fruition really at the same time, and we will know where we're going as a country.
Bottom line is November. The first 2 weeks of November is a critical time, yes.
Okay. Well, Jan, thank you for simply stating this all for us and making us understand this very complicated issue with a lot of, I think, long-term impact, really. So thank you for that, and we'll have to see what happens with time. Well, that is the Pulse for tonight. We appreciate you joining us. I'm Sharon Asher. Have a great night.